Assalamualaikum.
That we're starting this webinar, seminar, but his webinar and going to use in the web. I want to thank first Peaceful Family for really helping us and partner with Adam Center to do this program together. This is a partnership. We partner in many programs. And I would like to thank especially my sister, Salma Abu Judairi, for allowing me to have her on her weekend to do some work. But alhamdulillah, we are now in this circumstances that it has created a kind of uncertainty in many ways. But at the same time that there's, inshallah, there's a benefit, God willing, to get out of this test that we're going through. The reason that we started this or initiated this program, we want to address the issue of the mental health and the psychological aspect of this difficult time, from the spiritual perspective, connecting the spirituality or psychology is something that myself and Sister Sam will do always in our training, in our workshop and seminars. I would like to just introduce the topic, and then I will give it to Sister Salma to talk about how manage stress and how do you understand stress, and how do you manage it. I want to say that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, God Almighty, in the Holy Quran, said to us that the nature of life is a life of test. No human being will escape testing in life in general, because Allah says, one of the golden rules, that life is not easy, never meant to be easy. And God Almighty says in the Quran, do people think that they will say that we have faith and believe and never will be tested? Would they think that they will say that we believe without being tested? And God Almighty said, we test them as we tested those before them. And God Almighty, we know who are those who are sincere and those who will deny. Then Allah in the Quran also says, وَنَبْلُوكُمْ بِالشَّرِّ وَالْخَيْرِ فِتْنَةً. We test you with difficulty and blessing, and to us you will return. And then you know the ayah, that very well-known verse that I mentioned it many times. It really describes what we are in now today, where Allah Almighty says, وَلِنَبْلُوَنَّكُمْ بِشَيْءٍ مِنَ الْخَوْفِ وَالْجُوعِ نَقْصٍ مِنَ الْأَمْوَالِ وَالْأَنْفُسِ وَالثَّمَرَاتِ وَبَشِّرِ الصَّابِرِينَ الَّذِينَ إِذَا أَصَابَهُم مُّصِيبَةٌ قَالُوا إِنَّا لِلَّهِ وَإِنَّا إِلَيْهِ رَاجِعُونَ. God Almighty says, we'll test you of some of fear, khawf, والجوع, hunger, نقص من الأموال, the diminishing of wealth, والأنفس, and losing of human life, الأنفس, والثمرات, crops, food, وبشر الصابرين, give glad tidings for those who are patient, الذين إذا أصابتهم مصيبة, when those are the people when the calamity hit them, when the difficulty come to them, they say, we belong to God. We belong to Him. Inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un, and to whom we return. And therefore, there's many lessons to be learned from understanding the nature of life, what you expect of life. Life has tests on it, but patience and sabr bring comfort and glad tidings. The news that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have told us that we will be rewarded for every difficulty and hardship we face in life. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also says in the Quran, in Surah Al-Hadid, ما أصاب بمصيبة في الأرض ولا في أنفسكم إلا في كتاب من قبل أن نبرأها إن ذلك على الله عزيز. Every calamity that happened on earth or happened to us is being written, decreed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But the person should say the following: قُلْ لَن يُصِيبَنَا إِلَّا مَا كَتَبَ اللَّهُ لَنَا. Nothing will happen to us except what Allah decreed to us. But the person have to take all the precautions, washing their hands, not to be public and not to put themselves into a vulnerable situation, and seeking medicine. If a person is sick, seek medical intervention. But we have a concept called dawa wa du'a, seeking medicine and seeking supplication from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Inshallah, I would like to give it to Sister Salma to talk about. Many people are stressed and being confined in their home, and it becomes difficult to do so. I want to give it to her to talk about stress, the nature of stress, and how to manage stress. And then we'll talk later, inshallah, of other aspects of it from Islamic perspective. Please go, Sister.
Okay. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. It's really great to see so many people joining us. I also want to thank Imam Majid for his initiative for, really taking care of the community, not just the local Adams community, but, across the country. He's really attuned to people's emotional well-being and spiritual well-being, and really trying to offer the comfort and guidance for all of us, alhamdulillah. So we're really fortunate to have him, and I'm really grateful that he reached out to me and to Peaceful Families Project. For those of you who may not know, Peaceful Families Project is focused on promoting peaceful families, healthy families, and in preventing domestic violence. And, some of you might be wondering, how does that relate to coronavirus? But, for some people, being at home is the safest and most comfortable place to be. And for other people, being at home may not feel safe at all. So we'll be talking a little bit about that later on, but that might be one of the stressors. So I just want to start by acknowledging that, everyone who's on this call, who is watching right now, we come from very diverse backgrounds, and we are living in very different and diverse circumstances. So each of us is going to be impacted somewhat differently. And we may have different reactions than our siblings, than our parents, than our neighbors. And so I'll try to give lots of different examples as I'm speaking. But if somehow you feel that your circumstance isn't addressed, please feel free to send in the questions. We'll have questions at the end, inshallah. And we'll try to allow plenty of time for that, inshallah. But, just even, as I think about the people that I know personally and the people that I work with in my practice, and just even within my own family, each of us is reacting so differently. Some people have taken it very seriously. They immediately implemented the social distancing, went and stocked up on groceries, and other people are thinking, really, what's the big deal? This is just hype, and it's over, we're overreacting, and I'm not going to make any change in my lifestyle. As Imam Majid has been encouraging us from the beginning, to listen to our public health officials. But part of that reaction, in terms of either feeling like overreacting or not wanting to make any change, part of that is related to our own personality as well as our personal histories. People may have gone through much worse scenarios, so this may feel like nothing to them. And for other people, this is the first time to have our lives disrupted and impacted in such a way. And so for those people, the reaction is going to be a little bit different. So I think as we interact with each other, I'm saying that because I want us to be patient with each other and compassionate with each other, and to realize that we're all very different in how we react, and we're different in what we need. We're also different in how we show stress. Right? So all of us knows what stress is, but we may manifest it quite differently. For some people, it shows up in their bodies. So they have headaches, and they have stomach aches, and they have, fatigue, and they can't sleep, or they don't want to get out of bed. Like it's physical. They may notice themselves really like hypervigilant, like very easily startled. Somebody walks in the room and they're, very jumpy. So that's one way it can show up in our bodies. Other people, the stress manifests more emotionally. So, they may be more irritable, they may be more anxious, they may not feel like doing anything. They may not have interest in, doing anything that's enjoyable or pleasurable. Just kind of their mood would be affected in a negative way, like, just feeling despair or, depressed. For some people, it's going to show up in their behavior, like treating others just treating others in a differently than their normal way, maybe blaming others, not wanting to engage, wanting to withdraw from other people. So, again, as you think about yourself and your family members, just sort of pay attention to how stress shows up. One person may be really angry, and we might be wondering, why is this person angry? What is there to be angry about? But the anger has a good purpose, and it's just alerting that person something is off. And then we need to take a moment to try to understand our own feelings, right? So, what I'm suggesting is that we all need to help each other in this, but also that we take responsibility for our own emotions. So, if I'm anxious, then, anxiety is one of those emotions that feeds itself. Like if I start to worry, oh my gosh, I'm going to run out of food. And then the next thought is going to be, oh my gosh, if I run out of food, I'm going to starve to death. And oh my gosh, then my kids are going to starve to death. And then what's going to happen? Nobody's even going to know we're dead because nobody can visit us. So that's how anxious thoughts kind of build on themselves. And so my responsibility to myself is I need to interrupt that process. And I'm going to give you some tools and some tips for what you can do to interrupt it. But I also want to suggest that we have a shared responsibility. If we notice our family members getting, kind of their emotions are taking over in a way that makes it difficult for them to manage themselves, that we also, start by being, compassionate. Sometimes humor can be very helpful. I know myself, I discovered that I can be really paranoid about this virus. And so if people are standing too close to me, I start to imagine that I'm going to infect them. And then I know that this is irrational. And so I can laugh at myself. And also I appreciate, that my family members have, they're taking it lightly from me and not, they haven't sent me off to a mental institution yet, even though, this is not my normal kind of way of acting. And so just, they're kind of being playful with me and also, helping me to just express what I need to express, and then, we move on. So it's a shared responsibility here. We're all in this together. And it may be that this moment I'm really anxious and the next moment somebody else is really anxious. So we can take turns, helping each other. But for most of us, this is a very, very new, unfamiliar experience. And this past week, all of us have been transitioning. We've just been in transition, trying to figure out what does it mean? What does social distancing mean? How am I supposed to flatten the curve? And oh my gosh, I was traveling. What if I was exposed to something? What am I supposed to do? We're trying to figure out, where do we get the factual information from? For many of us, we've transitioned to working from home. For other people, they don't know if they will have a job or not. Some people have already been laid off. So there's really a lot for us to deal with. And this past week has been just transitioning. And with all new circumstances, subhanAllah, as human beings, we have this incredible ability to adapt. But the first few days or even couple of weeks, we're still in the adapting process. We're still figuring it out. After a couple of weeks, many of us will have found a new rhythm and a new routine, and we kind of get used to the modified behavior, in terms of where we're going, if we're going out, if we're not going out, who we get to see, how we're connecting. So we will adjust. So I want to give a few concrete tips for how you can take some control over your own emotions. Because in this time, probably for most people, a common challenge is dealing with the uncertainty and the unknown. And as human beings, we think that we can have control, and we like to know what's going to happen next. And so there are some ways that we can immediately sort of remind ourselves of the ways in which we do have control. And that's what we have to focus on, because there are a lot of things we can't control. We can't really control what's going to happen in the bigger world, but we can control what's happening within ourselves and to a large degree in our homes. And the first thing that we can start with is our own thoughts and our own feelings and our own behavior. Okay, so one of the sort of standard ways to interrupt negative emotions like anxiety or any kind of stress is just to take a deep breath. Okay, it's very simple, but when we are in a stressful situation, our brain goes into flight mode, fight, flight, or freeze, and immediately our breathing becomes shallow. So if we want to interrupt that process, we override it, we just take a deep breath. And I'm going to invite all of you just to take a deep breath with me. So you're going to inhale through your nose and exhale through your mouth. So we're just going to inhale and exhale. And I'm going to invite you to take another breath. And I'm just going to ask you to notice what's happening in your body. If you continue to take some slow and deep breaths, the brain gets a signal that there is no immediate threat. So the parasympathetic nervous system can engage. In other words, your body can calm down and the stress hormones can calm down, and you will start to be able to think a lot more clearly. When we're anxious, we are in that fight flight mode. We may forget all the things that we know to be true, like, you know, I can wash my hands and I can, you know, prevent the spread of germs. I can use sanitizing wipes. This is going to pass. It is a test. But like everything else in this world, it has a beginning, a middle, and an end. Only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala lasts forever, so this can't last forever. But in the middle of a stress moment, we can't remember any of that. So by taking a deep breath or a few deep breaths, we can interrupt that stress response in ourselves, and we can access the information that we all have stored in our brain and our prefrontal cortex simply by taking a few deep breaths. And for some of us, you know, 1 or 2 deep breaths will help. For others, really like going to a quiet corner and breathing for several minutes, 10, 15 minutes, and just focusing on your breath. And even it can be helpful to do what's called paced breathing, which is you count. So you count on your inhalation to 3 and you exhale to 3, or you can, you know, stretch it out longer, 4 or 5, whatever you're comfortable with. But it's just about slowing down your breath. And when you slow down your breath, your thoughts will slow down as well. Okay, so it's a very concrete thing that it's very simple, but oftentimes we forget to do it. If you have children and they're kind of wound up, you can also teach them how to breathe, get down at their eye level, and you breathe with them. And even if they're not immediately breathing, after watching you do it, they're going to start copying you. So you just slow down your breath, and you know, you may notice that when I talk about breathing, I also slow down my speech. So I can't breathe deeply and speak quickly. It's not possible. Everything slows down, okay? And that's what we want to be able to do. A couple of other tips for you is in this time when we're all sort of in new territory. We don't really have a roadmap for how to do this. We're figuring it out as we go. We get new information every day. And so as we're learning all of this, it's really important to be kind to yourself. We have to be kind to ourselves. Nobody has this figured out yet, and that's okay, because we're going to figure it out together, inshallah. We're going to do the best we can every day. And we have, mashallah, lots of places where we can get support and we can get guidance if we need it. And so just talking to yourself in a kind way, in a compassionate way, in a gentle way, is a way to reduce stress. So in my work as a therapist, when I talk about self-compassion, people often ask me, what does that even mean? You know, what does it mean to be kind to yourself? So the easiest way for people to understand that is, imagine that you're talking to your best friend and your best friend is going through a hard time. Are you going to yell at your best friend? Probably not. Okay, what are you going to say to your best friend? You know, and people come up with different answers, and I invite you to reflect on that for yourself. You know, people come up with answers like, I'll tell my friend it's going to be okay, or I'll tell my friend that I'm here for you, or I'll tell my friend, you know, here's a number that you can call. I'll tell my friend I love you. So these are the same kinds of things that, you know, what you would tell your best friend, you can tell yourself. And people laugh at me when I say, you can tell yourself, I love you. I'm not going to say that to myself. Try it. Try telling yourself that you are loved as well. And you're loved by yourself. You're loved by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And ask yourself to identify the people who love you as well. And they may be friends and they may be family members. But it's very important that we bring that, that we remind ourselves, of positive words to ourselves and positive relationships that we have. You might have seen and heard lots of advice about having a routine. And this is really important in a time when we really don't know what's going to happen next. But if we make a routine, then at least we know what we're planning for today. And it's really important if you have kids, and even if you are single, if you're living at home by yourself, it could be especially important to have a routine if you're not going to work. For many of us, work and school provided the structure to our day. And so now we don't, we're working from home, school is at home if you have kids, or if you're in college. Sometimes structure was provided by the masjid, going to the classes or going to Jama'ah. All of those external structures right now are not here. However, it's very important that you get up every morning and get dressed. You don't have to wear a suit and tie, but you should get dressed and not stay in your pajamas all day. And you should identify some things that you want to get done during that day so that you have a purpose. We are wired for, we are created to need meaning and purpose in our lives. And part of the way that you can accomplish that, and this may be particularly important for people who are living alone and who aren't, in the role of a caregiver. So as parents, you immediately are busy taking care of your children. But if you don't have anyone in particular that you need to take care of in that way, if you don't have any elderly, or you don't have anyone near you that you need to take care of, it's particularly important that you identify some things that you're going to do every day, so that you have objectives and you feel like you're accomplishing something. And that could be anything from, learning a new surah, or, listening to a lecture, or cleaning your house. It doesn't have to be anything earth-shattering, but it's important that you develop some things that you want to do. And then if you have young people especially, it's important to have some structure so they know when it's time for studies and when it's time to play. And then, try to maintain your regular sleep schedule, your regular meal schedule. And even as I say that, I'm aware that in our household things are disrupted, and we're trying to get to that schedule because everybody, is now working from home and we have different schedules. But it is something to try to do, because all of those things create a sense of normalcy. And that's what we need for our anxiety to go down. Just to feel like, okay, at least in my home, things are as normal, or some things are as normal as they can be. You may also have heard a lot of advice about getting outside. So yes, we're not supposed to go to public places, we're not supposed to congregate, but the earth is so spacious. So we can go outside, we can drive somewhere where there aren't a lot of people if you happen to live in a high density area. I know that some people struggle with allergies. If you can't spend time outside, at least look out of a window. I mean, there's very old research that, when people are in a hospital for a long time, the people who have a window in that hospital room recover faster than those who don't have a window. So even just looking outside, if you can't get outside, and notice how spacious, the earth is. Look at the colors of the sky, look at the colors of the trees. Everything is blooming now, mashallah. Listen to the sound of the birds, and just, pay attention to what's happening in that moment as you're appreciating the beauty of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's creation outdoors. And if you are able to go outside, then that ties into my next point of being physically active. It's very easy when we're stuck at home to just sit in a chair, and for many people to turn on the TV, or just to, be on social media all day. And actually that contributes to depression, because you start to feel like you don't have a life, and plus you're watching all of this stuff that is probably not inspiring, but actually anxiety provoking. So, and even if you're watching, you know, religious talks all day, just sitting all day is not good for you. So you need to make sure that you're doing something where your body is moving, even if you're walking around your home, if you can't go outside, even if you're just doing stretches. But you do need to have some physical movement as part of managing your stress, because somehow our body, you know, when we stay in one position, our body knows this is not really good for us. And so we, over time, you know, not in one day, maybe not in 2 days, you might feel fine, but over time, if this is a long-term thing that we're dealing with, you will not feel well physically or emotionally. A couple of other points, and then I'll turn it back to Imam Majid. Something else about the brain is that we tend to naturally focus on the negative, and we naturally remember the negative. And this is for a good reason, that if, for example, let's say you stuck your hand on the stove and you burned your hand, you're probably going to remember that for a long time, if not for the rest of your life. And that's so that you don't do it again. So we're wired that way. And so we have to make a point to look for the positive and to remember it. And so I'm going to give you just sort of a concrete example and walk you through how you can strengthen a positive memory in your brain, or strengthen a positive experience. So I just want each of you, as you're listening, to think of one positive moment that you had today. Even if there's somebody here from the West Coast, hopefully you were awake long enough to have a positive moment. And I am 100% confident every single person has had one positive moment, at least today, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives them to us all the time. We just don't notice it. So think of a positive moment. I'm going to just use an example of, you know, being on, I went for a walk today, and, you know, just noticing a bird chirping. And as you think of your positive moment, notice what's happening in your body as you remember that positive moment. You know, do you feel happy? Do you feel uplifted? Do you feel inspired? Do you feel hopeful? Do you feel grateful? And notice where you feel it in your body. And take a deep breath. Okay, and so that kind of anchors it for you in your mind. And then if you can, starting from this moment, if this is not a practice you already do, starting from this moment, track the positive moments throughout your day. Okay, instead of looking for what's going wrong, look for what's going right. Okay, I woke up today, I can breathe. All of you who could take a breath, this is a positive, that's a positive moment. You know, people who are sick or have, you know, difficulty breathing, they're not able to do that so easily. So even if you could take a deep breath, that's a positive moment. So I want you to track and ask yourself throughout the day, what's going right? What's positive in this moment? And see if you can make like a running tally, even if it's mental. If you struggle with finding positive moments, I would encourage you to write down every positive moment you capture. And then before you go to sleep at night, review those positive moments. So it's like you're going to play a videotape of all the positive things that happened that day. Okay, if you're a person that likes to take pictures of positive things, look at those pictures before you go to sleep. You know, look at the pictures of the children playing, or if somebody sent you pictures of people that you love, or whatever it is. But find a way before you go to sleep to have the positive playing in your mind instead of the worries about tomorrow. Okay, just focus on what went right that day. Finally, you know, it's an interesting thing, you know, that we always encourage people to stay connected. And it's this weird time that we're in of social distancing where, you know, we are staying apart, and, you know, we can also stay connected in these beautiful ways. I've never really loved technology that much, but I'm certainly grateful that we have it and that I know how to use it in some way or another. So, you know, I'm reading about all of these interesting and creative ways that people are being connected, and so several people have been sending me, you know, things that they've seen on Facebook or articles that they've read. knowing that I may not have seen it myself. So I'm going to share some ideas that, other people have shared with me. But people are scheduling, dinners together with their extended family. And, you schedule it, everybody cooks something in their own home, you prop up your phone or your laptop, and people are having dinner together. This is something I actually did when my kids left college. So I really left for college, I really appreciated FaceTime. And we could, you can have a meal with your family member, even if they're not physically in your home. People are, I had a networking event with other therapists. We were initially supposed to meet in a restaurant a couple of weeks ago, and we made it a virtual, everybody bring your own tea or coffee or whatever. So of course it's not exactly the same, but even as I see all of your names on the screen, I am feeling connected to so many people. Imam Majid has done a great job of making programs accessible throughout this time, so we can stay connected. The other instructors at Adams have been doing the same, so we can stay connected. And it's really very important that we also think about people who may not have families and reach out to them. There are many people who are single and who may be feeling especially disconnected because they're not going to work, they're not going to the masjid. So yes, we may not be able to visit, but we can certainly call, we can text, we can do all kinds of things. So I'm going to pause here and let Imam Majid pitch in before we talk about boundaries and privacy.
Thank you so much, Sister Salma, for really this beautiful advice you have given us. And I've been writing notes myself so that I can practice what you're saying in my own home. I would like to address the issue of stress management from the spiritual aspect of it. You read in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, أَلَا بِذِكْرِ اللَّهِ تَطْمَئِنُّ الْقُلُوبِ. Allah says, very surely with the remembrance of Allah, heart will have serenity and comfort. You ask yourself, in this difficult time, how can I connect with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the way that I feel the serenity and comfort in my heart? Number one, we have to believe that Allah Almighty subhanahu wa ta'ala have the ultimate power, infinite mercy, that He, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as we call upon Him, as we seek His help, as we surrender ourselves to Him, He will bring that comfort to us in our heart. You have to know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is a shafi, is a healer. As Ibrahim alayhi salam said, وَإِذَا مَرِضْتُ فَهُوَ يَشْفِينِ. If I get sick, He's the one who healed me. Then we get worried. We worried about so many things. Sister Salma gave you a list. From getting sick or being sick, what's gonna happen to me, what's gonna happen to my job, what's gonna happen to my children. We're worried. There's no time, I think the stress level went to the roof like this time, because so many things come together at the same time. Plus what they call the social distancing, not social isolation. We can still be connected. We're not socially isolating ourselves. We're socially distancing ourselves. For me, I think about the hadith of Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. When he came to the masjid and he saw a man look very worried, overwhelmed, sitting by himself. For Rasul sallallahu asked him, how are you? How are you feeling? Are you okay? The man said, no, I'm not okay. I have so much financial problems. I have so much worries. Then the Prophet Muhammad said to him, should I teach you? Do you would like to learn about a supplication, a prayer? If you were to say it, it will relieve you from the anxiety and the stress that you are in. I want you to think about this, because there's a mental exercise about this dua. You see, one of the things about dua, supplication and prayer, you should not just say it with our tongue. If our mind into it and our heart into it, then it really have impact on our well-being and emotional well-being. he said to him, say to Allah, God Almighty, oh Allah, I seek refuge by you. I seek refuge by you from the following. From where is Alham? Aren't you worried, my brothers and sisters? Yes. We ask Allah to protect us, to release us from these excessive worries we have. We start thinking positively. Alham. Wal-hazan, as people being confined or being staying in their home, then they may have this feeling of going down, or even depression. Because excessive worries, you worry about so many things, it's going to impact our psychological, emotional well-being. This is a amazing dua, actually, that encompass all of the psychological, emotional trouble might be going through now, this moment. Ham wal hazan. Hazan means sadness, depression, feeling down. Hazan. Wal ajz. Subhanallah, who is not feeling helpless now? We cannot do anything about this. It's completely in the hand of God Almighty. There's certain things we can do ourselves. As I said before in my introduction, we have to seek medical intervention. We have to wash our hand. We should not be in practical places in public. But after that, after you do this, then leave it to Allah, because there's certain things I have no control over. And since I have no control over, if I worried about it, it's not going to change it. Nothing's going to change. I'm just really overwhelming myself. Therefore, I have to trust Allah, to tawakkul on Allah. Well, ajz, that's why a person says, Hasbunallah wa ni'mal wakeel. Allah is sufficient for us. The one who rely on Him, we put our trust in Him. We say, La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. There's no power, no strength except from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's how we, deal with those kind of circumstances when we feel that we're overwhelmed and we feel helpless. Wal ajz. Then wal kasal. Then we start withdrawing from life. The lack of motivation, lack of activities. No, even in our home, let us, if you couldn't walk outside, just walk in your home. Exercise, jump up and down. And I'm going to come to the other form, by the way, of comfort, which is the salah. You say, wal-ajzi, wal-kasal, wal-jubn. Excessive fear. We get scared. Even I'm touching my table here, I have to wash it like 10 times. Like, what is it? Like the air bringing the virus? Should I turn my heat on or the air condition on? If I open my window a little bit, oh, subhanallah, I think it's coming in. Like this kind of so much worried. And sometimes there's so much fear make us get scared and have phobia. So this, like coronavirus is all over the place, that, and then rumors start spreading that, anything, gonna happen. Maybe the water, you open the water and you're gonna see coronavirus. Like it become like so much rumors and create this kind of excessive fear. Well, bukhl, my dear brothers and sisters, at the time of difficulty, what people do? Hold. I go and buy toilet papers that like mountains of it, that as if the world gonna end now. And make sure that I don't share what I have. What if we run out of enough things? Then we have to share it. Bukhl. It comes with this kind of emotional state, then we become holding. Then, وَضَلْعَ الدَّيْنِ. As people, financial difficulties hitting people, and as their paycheck is not coming, their financial obligations start piling up, and starting, having all of these things that you cannot fulfill their obligation, people are going to get into debt. ضلع الدين. Ask Allah, seek refuge. You seek refuge by Allah from ضلع الدين, from the overwhelming of financial difficulties. Then وقهر الرجال. Because in this kind of circumstances, people might become abusive. They might not be kind to one another. And you seek refuge from oppression of men, of people. That's why we have to have peaceful homes. Sister, we're going to talk about that at this difficult time. وقهر الرجال. Therefore, important is very important as we make this dua, we make it with the present heart. I'm going to repeat it. اللهم إني أعوذ بك من الهم والحزن والعجز والكسل والجبن والبخل وضلع الدين وقهر الرجال وغلبة الدين وقهر الرجال. Oh Allah, I seek refuge by you from all the worries, sadness, being helpless, laziness, from having excessive fear, from overwhelming financial difficulty, from oppression of men. This is a dua that we make at this difficult time. Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said to us also that you make a dua, Allahumma إني أسألك بكل اسم هو لك سميت به نفسك أو أنزلته في كتابك أو سأتر به في علم الغيب عندك أن تجعل القرآن العظيم ربيع قلبي ونور بصري وجلاء همي وحزني. Oh Allah, I ask you with all the beautiful names of yours, all the names that you named yourself after, either name that you revealed to us or kept it with you, you didn't share it with us. I ask you, Allah, to make the Quran, the words of you, the spring, the life of my heart, and make it the source of the comfort of my eyes. Give the light, have the light in my eyes and my ears. Then if Rasulullah said, and take away my worries and my sadness, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes our worries and sadness. Now, practical things, Sister Sam was talking about breathing. Since we're washing our hand many times these days, I want you, when you make wudu, make it in the way that you're going to feel, inshallah, to reduce your stress when you make wudu. For when you let the water run in your faucet, don't use a lot of water, rub your hand like this. This is what the Imam Malik said, called dalk. Feel the water in your mouth, your nose, your face, your hand. When a person really uses water and being conscious of it, as Rasulullah said, it cleans the person in the spiritual sense. That brings calmness to us. When you pray, you have to have this present heart. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when something worries him, he used to run to prayer. And he said to Bilal, "Rihna biha ya Bilal." Or Bilal, call for prayer so we can have comfort. That's what Allah meant, "Ala bi dhikrillahi tatma'innu al-qulub." Very surely with the remembrance of Allah, heart will have comfort. I'd like to end with two things here. That one of the things that make a person being optimistic and think the best is a person believing in akhirah, life to come. Believe that Allah will reward us for even the worries that we have, the pain we might experience, the sickness we go through. There's a compensation system. There's a life to come. This is not it. This here is not it. This is gonna go anyway. With coronavirus or something else, every person gonna die one day. But we have to believe in life to come. And therefore, that to believe in akhirah is important. And be optimistic. You should not believe that you're gonna get sick now, sickness is gonna come to me. You ask Allah for afiyah. You ask Allah for good health. That's why Rasulullah saw a man very sick, and he said to him, why are you not making dua? He said, I do make dua. He said, what kind of dua are you making? He said, I said to Allah, if you're going to punish me in akhirah, oh Allah, bring all your punishment here in the dunya. Rasulullah said, no, you should not have said that. And he cried, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He said, you should have said the following: Oh God Almighty, give us the best of this life. Protect us from coronavirus, protect our family, protect our loved one. Give us the best of this life and the best of life to come. And protect us from hellfire. That's how we make dua. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. The other things that I want to say that is the issue of connecting with loved one. You know, one of the benefit a reward the person get and make their life easy is to connect to our kinship. A person just make a phone call, ask about our loved one, say, how are you? Or our neighbor, or somebody that we know in our community that maybe he doesn't have somebody or she does not have somebody taking care of them. That will bring comfort to us. You know why? Because we ease the difficulty of somebody, Allah will ease our own difficulty. من فرج عن مسلم. Whoever bring ease to somebody, Allah bring ease to them. For we call or we donate to a cause that bring comfort to people, giving sadaqah. It also protects a person from calamity. Therefore, I want to have us to have a habit, the following habit: make dhikr with present heart, present mind. We should believe that Allah is in control, not us. The thing that I'm in control over, I'm going to do my best. The thing I'm not control over, I'm going to leave it to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I'm going to think the best of Allah. I'm not going to everyone get him in the morning and say, I'm getting the disease, I'm getting the sickness. Say, no, Allah will protect me, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If a person is sick, contracted the disease, they have to know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will reward them for every single pain they have, and may Allah heal all of those who are sick. For this are the things that we have to have, we should have in our mind, and our attitude should be attitude that لا يصيبنا إلا ما كتب الله لنا. Nothing will happen to us except what Allah had decreed for us. هو مولانا. Allah is our protector. If we have that kind of attitude, then you have comfort. You have comfort, inshallah. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it easy on us, because I wanted to give it back to Sister Salma so they can give us the other tips that we can do to make our home and our time together a peaceful time, inshallah.
Jazakallah khair, Imam Majid. I was just thinking that I may need to watch the recording of this myself, because, you know, we all forget even the advice that we might give to somebody else. So, you know, this is being recorded. So, and there are so many other resources too, if you start to feel overwhelmed. So I want to shift gears a little bit. It is very much related. When people are going through any kind of stressful situation, we tend to have, our capacity tends to be stretched thin. And when our capacity is stretched thin, we may not manage ourselves in the best way that we would like. And so that means if you are living in maybe a crowded situation and you don't have enough privacy or space, or if you feel completely isolated, you know, we may react sometimes with anger and irritability. Some people express the anxiety as fear. And some people don't say that they're anxious, but actually they exhibit anger. And so it's really important that we, as I said, we take responsibility for ourselves. So first, ask yourself, what am I feeling? And the moment that you can identify that feeling, if you just notice what's happening in your body, simply by naming that feeling, you will feel a little bit calmer. And then you ask yourself, what do I need right now in this moment? Okay, so you're engaging your brain, you will calm yourself down, and you have to identify what you need. It's not anyone else's responsibility to figure out what you need. If you need more space, then you need to figure out how you can get it. If you need more connection, you need to figure out how you can get it. If you need more information, figure out how you can get it. But you have to ask yourself, what do I need in this moment? Now, as many of you are living with family members and everyone is, you know, confined more or less to the house, it is very normal for people to start to feel like they don't have enough space. You know, some people are fortunate, they live in big homes and everyone has their own bedroom, in which case they might feel isolated, but some people don't have enough space. And so, you know, at first I want to say that remember that everybody has different needs. So if someone in your household says they need more space, it's important that you don't get offended and you don't take it personally. Privacy is something that's very important to us as human beings, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the Prophet ﷺ modeled for us the teachings that respect one another's privacy. And the key word here also is respect. So even if we're feeling cramped, even if we're feeling stressed, we are responsible for behaving in the best way possible, especially now, right? Because we're all stressed. So we want to make sure that we are not, expressing ourselves by calling each other names, by using any kind of physical aggression, by insulting each other. The basics still apply. Our etiquette and our akhlaq have to still be the best, even though our circumstances are different. The rules don't change just because we're in a tough circumstance. And if we find ourselves crossing those boundaries, so if I disrespect you and call you a name, that's a boundary crossing. If I hit you, that's a big boundary violation. If we do find ourselves crossing those boundaries, we have to immediately backtrack, and we have to ask for forgiveness, and we have to see how we can repair with that person. Okay, now for some of you, if you're living maybe in a joint family system and you have multiple generations in the home, people need different amounts of quiet or space, and so it's important that family members check in with each other. If you can have a family meeting, that's good. If you need to, figure it out sort of in small dyads, 2 at a time, but really see if you can figure out and make a plan that takes into consideration the different family members' needs. If you have a very small space, I would recommend that you identify a corner in the home, some corner, make it comfortable, and this could be a quiet corner. And anybody who is feeling overstimulated or overwhelmed or over anything may take a few minutes and just go to that quiet corner and breathe or make dhikr or pray, whatever they need to do, draw, read a book, anything that will help them get themselves back together. Because again, we're all responsible for our own behavior. And we have to remember that what we do, positive or negative, is going to impact everyone else in the household, right? And now it's not like before. If, let's say I'm feeling like, I just need to get away, I can just go and get away. Right now, it's not necessarily an easy thing to just leave. Although if you can go outside, if you need a break, that's fine. But some people's circumstances may not allow that. And sometimes people are very sensitive culturally. If in some cultures, if somebody is saying, I don't feel like sitting with the family right now, I really need to be in my room just to, soothe myself or calm myself down, or just to de-stress. And so again, I'm asking all of you to just be mindful that we each have different needs. And it may be that before we were all, engaging in social distancing, it may be that family members were getting their space by going to work and going to school. They just weren't telling you they were getting their space that way, but they don't have that option now. And so again, I just really want you to be mindful of, if people's doors are closed, if their bedroom door is closed, knock on the door first. This is part of our Islamic, etiquette. We knock on a door, we don't just barge in on people. People may need to keep their door closed more because there's too much going on in the house, right? If you have, elderly parents at home or elderly relatives at home, and they may be used to everybody going to work and school, so the house was quiet during the day. Now everybody's at home. Maybe it's too noisy. So maybe they're opting to spend time in their room. Check in with them, see if they're okay, but they may be preferring and needing to keep the door closed just to have some, quiet time. It might be too much noise that they're not used to because people weren't home all the time. So, I'm just encouraging people to talk to each other and to be mindful that if you know somebody who may be in an abusive relationship, or if you yourself are in an abusive relationship, I want to acknowledge that being at home could be even more stressful for you, and that you may feel like your options are very limited in terms of what you can do. But there are still a lot of resources available to you by chat and by phone. For if you're experiencing domestic violence, you can contact the National Domestic Violence Hotline, and they can just chat with you. If you're feeling that you're in crisis, Sound Vision has a crisis text line, which is you text the word Salam, S-A-L-A-M, to 741-741, and we'll be posting these. There is if you're feeling that you need to talk to somebody to address your emotional needs, there is a national mental health directory hosted by SEMA, S-E-E-M-A, SEMA Mental Health, and you just find the state where you are living and see if you can find somebody there. Also, Psychology Today has a therapist directory, and you can filter by your location and by the specialty that you're looking for. You can find Muslim therapists there. So I would want everyone to know that there are resources, and you don't have to go through this alone, whatever it is you're going through. And there's no excuse if you are lashing out by being violent or abusive. There's really no excuse for that. You are responsible for your own behavior and identifying, what do I need so that I'm not acting in this way? What do I need so that I'm not abusing my family members? I'm not lashing out, because I'm irritable, or I'm stressed, or I'm worried, or I feel out of control, and so I need to control, the people in my household. If you're struggling with that, you can also reach out, for help, whether it's to a therapist or domestic violence services. There are people who can help, and almost all services now are being converted to telehealth. So you will find someone by chat or by phone or by video that could be of assistance to you. So let me turn it over to Imam Majid before we take questions.
I just would like to, first of all, I want to thank you again for giving people, all of us, resources that we can go to in time of need. I want just to say that faith, believing in God Almighty subhanahu wa ta'ala, should be strengthened at this time, because God Almighty said, فَفِرُّوا إِلَى اللَّهِ, flee to God, flee to Him. When fleeing to God Almighty is where you get the comfort and the protections and this emotional, security. You feel good in His presence because you leave it to Him after you do everything, as I said before, in our hand. I want to give you an exercise. Sister Salma, give you exercise. I'm going to give you an exercise. If a person does not know Arabic, or a person uses other name of using the word God in English, I'm going to say this word, and I want you to, Allah means God. Okay? Therefore, I want you to think about the following. The Prophet Muhammad said, Allah says, I am what my servant think of me. أنا عند ظن عبدي بي. I want all of us to think positive. Think God, Allah is our protector, God is there for us, and God watch over all of us. But I'm going to mention His name, and I want you to close your eyes. This is not bid'ah, it's not innovation. I want to give you a training. Allah, 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 La ilaha illallah, La ilaha illallah, La ilaha illallah, Allah, Hasbunallah wa ni'mal wakil, Hasbunallah wa ni'mal wakil, Allah, Allah. Do this dhikr, intense way of remembrance of Allah, and see what happened to your heart. See what happened to your heart. I guarantee something going to happen. ألا بذكر الله تطمئن القلوب. With the remembrance of God Almighty, heart would have comfort and serenity. Keep calling upon Him, asking Him, and you will see what will happen to us. Is Yunus alayhi salam said to Allah when he felt that being lonely and being by himself, he was not in his house. He was not in a home where he have a connection, wire connection. He was in the stomach of the whale. What did he say to Allah? لا إله إلا أنت سبحانك إني كنت من الظالمين. Oh God Almighty, there is no God but you, I've wronged myself. فكشفنا ما به من غم. We took away his worries and sadness. What happened when Nuh alayhi salam felt he'd been cornered and there's no way to go and there's no help? What did he say? إني مغلوب فانتصر. Oh Allah, I feel helpless. Oh Allah, give me victory, give me help, give me aid, assist me, Allah. When Ayyub alayhi salam felt sick and he felt that the sickness overtaken his body, when he said, what did he say? ربي إني مسني الضر وأنت أرحم الراحمين. Oh Allah, I've been tested with this sickness. You are the most merciful. Then Allah said, فكشفنا ما به من ضر. We took away his sadness, his sickness. We healed him. When the Sahaba, companions of the Prophet ﷺ, when he felt that the whole world is turning against them, قال لهم الناس الناس قد جمعوا لكم, that people gathered against us. They said, حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل. Allah is sufficient for us. We rely on Him. فانقلبوا بنعمة من الله وفضل لم يمسسهم سوء. They went away with no any difficulty and hardship. That's why Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq said, I swear by Allah, if you make this dua, you get the same outcome. For this is our prayer, our dua. We connect to Allah at this difficult time, so that we become near to Him. And that's why even staying in our home, not moving, it might be of a great benefit for us. We recite more Quran, we memorize more Quran, we do more khushu' in our salah, we spend time with our loved one, we show them that we care about them, we love them, we phone our relatives and families that we never have time to talk to them because always in the run. There's so much benefits that you get also from this. That's why Ibn Ata Iskandari said, ربما أعطاك فحرمك وربما حرمك فأعطاك. He might deprive you to give you, and he give you to deprive you. You know, we're being deprived now from walking around and so forth, but we can have sayr toward Allah. We walk toward Allah. We have this garden in our heart here. As one of the scholars says, بستاني في قلبي وقلبي في صدري. My garden is in my heart and my heart is in my chest. Let's discover this. There's opportunity for us to discover a new realm, a new space, this khalwa that Allah has put us in. This is my prayer, my dua, inshallah, and then I will leave it back to Sister Salma so they can, and Sister Sumaya, to deal with the question and answer. I know that some people on Facebook, I don't know if they can ask questions, but those people who are joining us with the Zoom, maybe can ask questions.
Okay, Sumaya, do you have questions coming in?
Yes. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Thank you so much, Imam Majid and Sister Salma. We have our first question from a brother here, and the question is for Imam Majid, asking on how we can concentrate on our salah without worrisome thoughts that might be distracting.
By the way, khushu' in prayer, it does not mean no feeling at all. A person, or concentrating in salah, if a person have thought come to their mind that he's worried about the virus, worried about this, that's a place where you give your worries. You talk to Allah about your worries. Therefore, it's okay. You know, when the worries comes and then you talk to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you're engaging again in this state of khushu'. Sometimes people think that khushu' is being in an awe with no any kind of feeling. You know, things are going to come to us, but can reorient ourselves. We can reconcentrate. And that's why one of the things I tell people, look to your salah as a following. If you said Allahu Akbar and then start thinking about a TV show or a singer or a movie, or push it back, bring back yourself to the salah. I said, no. I'm going to bring myself to salah. I'm going to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I'm going to engage in a conversation with Allah. But if you have forgot to say, to do this in the first rak'ah, you remember the second rak'ah, I see you praying Dhuhr or Asr. Say, oh, alhamdulillah, the second rak'ah. Shaitan took the first one, but the second one, I'm going to get in. He took the second one, he take the third one. He took the fourth one, take the sujood, the last sajda. Don't give it all. Therefore, it is kind of a struggle. And Allah appreciates this struggle that we have. Therefore, one of the things that I think you're going to experience at the time of difficulty, the prayer is intense. It is for sure. Because a person is worried. You know, the sujood is intense. That's why intense in the positive sense. I'm saying that you have this spiritual connection. That's why when you make sujood, feel like you're throwing yourself in the front of Allah. You're throwing all your worries to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and you see how you feel after the prayer. For that is how you deal with the khushu' and concentrating in salah, inshallah.
Jazakumullah khairan. We received a question asking, what should one do when they are being verbally abused during this time?
So I think everybody's situation is different. And so you always have to evaluate what is actually possible for you to do in that moment. But the first thing is to know and to recognize what's happening, which is that you're being mistreated and that you don't deserve that. Okay, nobody deserves to be abused. If you are in a situation where it's safe enough for you to tell the person that, hey, you know, I don't like you to talk to me that way, or please don't talk to me that way, then you should definitely do that. You should definitely ask people to stop their behavior if the behavior is harmful to you. However, if you have experienced that by telling that person to stop, their behavior may increase towards you, you want to think about what you can do just to get out of that situation. Okay, you know, you just want to try to exit. If you cannot stop the person, if you can't interrupt it, then at least remove yourself, so that you don't stay in a situation where you're hearing words that are harmful to you. You can excuse yourself by any way that you can. And if your situation is complicated, then these are the times when it would make a lot of sense to call a specialist that can walk you through your specific situation. Again, the National Domestic Violence Hotline is a good resource. I know there are people from around the country here, so I'm not giving local resources, but you can also look up your local domestic violence services, and there are people who can walk you through and help you figure out what's the best thing to do in that situation. But I think in most of our families where there's verbal abuse, like name calling or insulting, it may not be a dangerous situation, so you can definitely say, you know, I don't like it when you talk to me this way. I want you to restate what you're saying in a respectful way. And that's an important thing for you to be able to do. If it does not bring more harm to you, you should try to do that.
I would like just to say that at this difficult time that we are at the same home, just add to what Sister Sana have said, Rasulullah said, Al-kalima at-tayyiba sadaqa. Good word is an act of charity. That we have to remember that every word we uttered is recorded by God Almighty. ما يلفظ من قول إلا لديه رقيب عتيد. Therefore, let us do a lot of sadaqah. Like if your spouse or your child said, give me a glass of water, ask them, do you like to have ice on it? Because that extra credit. You know, it's a time that to get this hasanat through service, khidmah. It's very important for all of us at this time that we remember that Either we say something good or be silent. من كان يؤمن بالله واليوم الآخر فليقل خيرا, say something good or be silent. Because a person might say a word, doesn't take care about it. It might drag them into severe punishment with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Therefore, that الكلمة الطيبة صدق. والمسلم, a true believer, من سلم المسلمون من لسانه ويده, is a person that people feel safe from their hand and their tongue. Therefore, that is what we do in this time, that we remember those beautiful teaching of our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam.
Jazakallah khairan, Imam Majid. We have 4 more questions. The first one is, what may be healthy routines that we can strive to bring ourselves and families to do to encourage positive behavior?
This question for me is Salma. That I think I will say something, then I'll give it to Salma. Routine, as I said before, people in the home, they should have, each one of them have the responsibility of serving others. It should not be about me, me, me. That's number 1. Number 2, take a chapter from Quran. That even if you don't know Quran in Arabic, read in English the translations. Make a Quran diary. Get into a routine of dhikr, that we call it in Arabic word, something that you say in the morning or in the evening. Okay. Habit of reading. You can increase your knowledge. That sometimes being surrounded with books that we never get to read them. That's time to read. Even entertainment, entertain one another. You know, I start telling my children about my lineage, my history, my family. Do something like, you know, there's so many things about this opportunity people can utilize. Plus, people working from home, people going to school, they're doing online teaching. There's so many things we can do, be productive. That's why this is like an i'tikaf, mini i'tikaf, but not in the masjid. There's not a ruling, there's not a fiqh. I'm saying that we've been in this khalwa now. Therefore, I think that what some of the suggestions, I give the rest to Salma to give you more practical suggestions.
You know, I think prescribing one routine for everyone is not possible, because it's really going to depend on your own, you know, who you are, who else is in your household, and what are the ages and abilities of each person. But in terms of, you know, just trying to maintain a healthy routine in terms of, you know, when you wake up and when you go to bed, making sure your prayers are on time, and, you know, setting aside work separate from, you know, family time, as if like when you go to the office, if you were working, you go to the office, you come home and that's family time. Put away your devices and have your family time. So agree as a family, you know, what are those times that are just for the family and no devices? What are the times that now we have, you know, if there's certain times of the day that typically we would be away from each other because of commuting or whatever, and now we're together, you know, you guys can brainstorm what kinds of things you want to do. Imam Majid gave lots of good ideas. But the idea is that you have some sort of structure to your day, and whatever, you know, if you have children, try to keep their schedule as similar to what it was before, because that will help them feel calmer and feel like a sense of normalcy. And if it makes sense to keep your schedules as they were, but you're working from home instead of going out to work, keep them the same. But definitely,
You were gonna
but there isn't one routine that was going to fit for everyone. It's just about breaking up your day into, you know, what you're going to do at this time. And for some people, it will be very important to have times, like at 8 a.m. we have breakfast. And for other people, it's more about just kind of breaking up the day into chunks and labeling what you're going to do. And that will depend on people's personalities, and make sure you build in time to play. It's very important, even the adults, to have time to play. I know there's some, I don't know how to do this, but I know people are playing online games with each other. That's fine. Anything that makes you laugh, but you know, you can build in just some free time just to relax and have fun.
Thank you, Sister Salma. I have two questions for Imam Majid that I'm going to combine. It says, please mention a dua or dhikr to say that will encourage us to wake up for Fajr. And are there any specific du'as for situations like the coronavirus outbreak?
If a person before goes to sleep make dua reciting Ayat al-Kursi, قل أعوذ برب الفلق, قل هو الله أحد, قل أعوذ بالفلق, قل أعوذ برب الناس 3 times, and then blow on their hand like this, wipe their body, and they make dua of going to sleep, and then they have intention to wake up for Fajr, they're going to get for Fajr, inshallah. Other things that I want to say, that a person should always believe that the son of themselves, of their nafs, themselves, to rise before the son of the universe. That be ahead of your day, receive the day. Because that's the time that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala divide provisions. توزع فيه الأرزاق. وقرآن الفجر إن قرآن الفجر كان مشهودا. The Fajr is a prayer witnessed by angels. For make that dua, inshallah, and say to yourself, inshallah, I'm going to wake up for Fajr. I'm going to wake up for Fajr. And by the way, one of the things that I tell people, say 10 times, Salah on Rasul sallam. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ali. Allahumma salli wa sallim ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ali. Allahumma salli wa sallim ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ali. 10 times, and go to bed. You will wake up for Fajr, inshallah. Then what's the other the question?
If there's any specific du'as for coronavirus outbreak.
Yes. You ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to say, Allahumma inni nas'aluka ilman nafi'an wa rizqan wasi'an wa shifa'an min kulli da'. Oh Allah, I ask you for beneficial knowledge and nafi'an wa rizqan wasi'an. Give us an abundance of provision, shifa'an min kulli da', heal us from all sickness. And a person should ask, Rasulullah told us in hadith Rawahu Abu Dawood, that to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect us from the al-judam, from all the contagious diseases, and you and that's the dua su al-asqam, from all the dangerous sickness, or the sickness that make people have what do we call it, like chronic diseases, and a sickness that this can threaten someone's life. We can send all of this dua to you, inshallah, and we can post it so they can be written in Arabic and English, and inshallah Sister Sumaya will do that.
Jazakallah khairan, Imam Majid. We have a few other questions that have come in privately. The first one is, for people who live alone, how can they be motivated to study and not dwell on rising cases of coronavirus and then get into depression and end up not doing anything? Also, how to cope with the thought that your family is stranded in another country and you can't do anything?
Okay, I'll share a couple of thoughts, and then Imam Majid, please add your thoughts. One thing that I forgot to mention, and that's for everyone, whether you're alone or living with others, but limit your news intake. Limit the amount of time that you allow yourself to think about the coronavirus or to hear about the coronavirus. It's important that you are able to give your brain the opportunity to think about other things. So if you're having trouble focusing, you want to minimize those things that distract you, and ask yourself, what are the things that help you to focus better? Is there a certain room in the house where you're able to focus better? Are you able to focus better after you pray or you make some dua? Have you made sure to have regular meals? Because sometimes when people don't have the routine of going to work, they're not really eating properly, or they're just, they're eating junk food only. These things also affect our ability to focus. So all of the things we talked about in terms of managing stress are also part of what should be a regular habit for your well-being, and they will help you concentrate. If you find that you are not able to manage this by yourself, then difficulty focusing can be a symptom of depression or anxiety, and reaching out to a professional if you're not able to manage it yourself, or with advice that you get from friends and family. Certainly reach out to a professional who could help you to improve your focus and manage whatever may be getting in the way for you. There was the other piece of the question about if you're thinking about family members who are stranded. So I guess that really ties into the feeling of helplessness. This is a real challenge. I mean, it's not that we are able to do a lot in those kind of situations. So turning to your faith, Imam Majid, I'm sure will add to this, but remembering that even under normal circumstances, when we're not dealing with coronavirus, under normal circumstances, there are so many things that we can't control. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to take care of those things that are out of our control. And this is part of life, and we have to find ways that make us feel better. And if there is anything that can be done, I'm not sure what situation it is, but if there's something that an agency or an organization can help you with, you might need to reach out to the appropriate organization. I don't know what the situation is. So Imam Majid, do you want to add anything?
Alhamdulillah, I think you cover it, but I just want to share with them another dua since someone asked me. This is the dua that Uthman radiallahu anhu reported. عن عثمان رضي الله عنه قال سمعت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول من قال بسم الله الذي لا يضر مع اسمه شيء في الأرض ولا في السماء وهو السميع العليم 3 مرات لم تصبه فجاءة بلاء حتى يصبح ومن قال حين يصبح 3 مرات لم تصبه فجاءة بلاء حتى يمسي. Whoever say in the name of Allah, the one does nothing will bring harm, nothing will harm us, but with لا يضر مع اسمه, nothing will no harm will happen to us, but after we seek protection in his name, whether in earth, whether in heaven, and he is all hearing, all knowing. If you say that 3 times, that person will not get over sudden a calamity. That's one hadith. Rasulullah also says that to a man to say أعوذ بكلمات الله التامات من شر ما خلق, that seek refuge by the Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala perfect word and from all the things that he have created, from the evil of his creation. Therefore, inshallah, we will give you this dua in Arabic and English. I'm not giving the best translation now because I'm translating it from my head, and I'm not a professional translator. Therefore, inshallah, we will translate this to you and send it to you. But, a person in life, that it is okay for us sometimes, we feel overwhelmed, stressed, as we said in the beginning of this, but using the way to manage our stress and to calm ourselves down will make us be able to focus. If you're worried about loved one, that they may be do any, there's no one helping them, a person should seek resources to see how can we help our loved one. If a person lives in another city, maybe if they are not fluent in English, they're just refugees come to the country, maybe we can do all kind of research for them, find resources, and then connect the resources to them, even online on the phone, so that somebody know that they need help. And that leads me to say that there's some people in our community, the elder in our community, people in need, which is very important for us to donate money and to help them at this difficult time. And sometimes we can just have a list of people that we maybe need somebody to call them to check on them. We can do that as well, because at this time that we need the effort of everybody. We need to work together as one community. We need to comfort each other. And that is why it is important for us to keep connecting online. And I'm very grateful to Sister Salma and Peaceful Family have providing this platform to address our community and Adam's community. And maybe now we have people from actually around the United States joining us as well. That will be my contribution to this this question. I don't know if there are any other more questions.
Jazakallah khair, Imam Majid. We have received a few other questions, and I want to be cognizant of time. We have about 5 minutes, so inshallah we'll try to get through whatever we can. This question says, I understand that this should be considered a blessing from Allah, and while I can find peace in that for myself, how do I deal with the anxiety and fear I feel for my kids and family and what will happen to them if something were to happen to me?
This is Salma first.
I mean, I think that, you know, this is probably very normal. All of the questions really that have come in, you know, they're addressing feelings that are really quite normal. And the same strategy that you use, you know, for yourself, you use it when you think about your children. So reminding yourself of what you already have and what you're already doing to take care of your children. So whatever food you have in the house, you have a house, you have heating or air conditioning, you have running water, you know, your children have you. Since you're able to ask the question, you're obviously still alive, so they have you in their lives, and you're going to continue to parent them in the way that you were parenting them 2 weeks ago. The same values you were teaching them, the same stories you were reading them, whatever it is. So you just have to remind yourself that you are going to keep parenting and taking care of your other family members the way that you did before, those especially that live in the household with you. And, you know, today we're talking about coronavirus, we know about coronavirus, but as you know, even before coronavirus, you know, anything could happen to any of us at any time. So no parent is really, you know, protecting their child from anything bad ever happening to them. We would love to do that as parents, but the reality is your child can fall down, your child can get hit by a car, your child can get sick with something else. And so we deal with those situations when they come, and we reach out for the resources that we need depending on the circumstance, right? So if your child gets sick, you're going to reach out to the physician. And to remind yourself that ultimately Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is taking care of you and taking care of your children and taking care of your family members. And if you're not there to take care of your children, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to send someone else to take care of your children. We are all just tools and vehicles through which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala operates. And, you know, I'm not sure exactly what your specific worry is, but, you know, see if you can identify what your specific fear is and what you would need in order to not worry about that so much. You know, do you need to have a network of, you know, people that are going to check in on your children, or do you need to have a list of places to call if your child gets sick? Like, what is it that you need that will ease your worry, so that you're identifying something concrete. And just remind yourself that everything that you did last week and the week before as a parent, you're going to still do it. And your children have you, and you're going to remind them to breathe and to pray, and that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is holding all of us and is going to take care of all of us in the best possible way. I don't know if that answers your question, but I hope so, inshallah.
Thank you, Sister Salma. We have another question that says, if someone doesn't acknowledge they are stressed but is very disruptive to everyone else in the household, how can we help them realize and acknowledge they are stressed or fearful?
Yeah, that's a big challenge. And I think it's a real issue that many people are facing. So you may need to decide who is the person that is most likely to be able to communicate with that person. You know, it may not even be someone in the household, but is there anyone that you know, anyone in the extended family, any friend who may have the ability to reach that person, to get through to that person, and help them understand, you know, how their behavior is impacting others. One thing that you can try is to try to put yourself in that person's shoes and try to understand why they might be acting that way. And if you're able to approach them by validating them, you know, like, you know, this is what we're noticing and this is what we're experiencing. You know, you may be feeling stressed, and people might say, no, I'm not stressed, I'm fine. Okay, so you may not be stressed, you may be feeling fine, and we're noticing this behavior, which is not your norm, you know, and it's affecting us in this particular way. So you may need to just make a request for a behavior change. And then, you know, really sometimes someone else outside the family may be able to communicate and convey in a way that's less, that creates less defensiveness. But that's definitely a challenge. And you may need to find ways to give yourself space from that person if you're not able to influence them and help them modify their behavior. Imam Majid, do you want to add anything?
I think we run out of time, but I would like just to say that sometimes we are stressed, we don't realize that we're stressed. And if somebody tells us, I think you look like stressed, and the person might need to become in touch with themselves and realize that, because that might happen to me, happen to anyone, that you know, you become like overwhelmed and you say something or you do something other people can notice. Therefore, we should accept that with open heart, that person might see that we've been irritated, so that we can refocus, reorient ourselves. The last thing I want to say today is that faith is the anchor point. Faith, believe in God, is the anchor point. Is holding to the rope of God. That is what help a person to overcome and weather the storm. You know, keep holding. Therefore, it is very important for us to be optimistic, to think the best. For the person asked about thinking about their children, all of us, we have to do everything in our hand. But at the end of the day, that things, inshallah, God willing, God will take care of our children. May God protect us and have us children and great children, and protect everyone on this call and everyone from a loved one, and those who are sick, God Almighty might heal them. Therefore, let's be optimistic, make the best out of this time. It would be the worst of time, could be the best of time.
Ameen. Jazakallah khair, Imam Majid, and to the people at Adams who have been working behind the scenes so that we could make this available through Facebook Live. And I want to thank the team at Peaceful Families Project and Sumaya Al-Hajabi, who's been working also behind the scenes and taking your questions. And this really, you know, came together very quickly. So please forgive us for any shortcomings. And if we didn't get to your questions, we can try to answer them. Perhaps if you email, I'm happy to try to answer questions. You can email me at salma@peacefulfamilies.org. If we haven't covered it already in the webinar, and this is recorded, so it will be posted at some point, inshallah. So jazakumullah khair.
Sister Salma, and just one last reminder, we will be sending out all the resources and the adaya that Imam Majid has shared. In order to receive that email, I've included a link both on the live feed as well as on Zoom for you to put in your information for our MailChimp. And inshallah, we'll be sending out the recording along with all the resources within the next 48 hours. Jazakumullah khairan, everyone. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam.